folks, it's Dane at Jonah Guitars, and in this episode I'm going to make a fret sliding sled for my table saw. This is what it looks like when it's finished, and if you want to find out how to do that and you've got the time, hang out, stick around, I'll show you what's going on here. I'm also going to have some footage of just cutting the stuff out, getting everything prepped and ready to go together, and I'll tell you about the sizes and all that sort of thing once we start the assembly. So stick around. Okay, so here's a couple seconds just showing that I cross-cut, uses the cross-cut guide there, and cut it off. Okay, so just shown all of the process of cutting the pieces. At the base here, the base can be anything you want it to be. I just happened to have a piece of wood that was about the right size. I probably had wished it had been a little bit longer, but I don't have anything in the shop right now that I care to cut up. It just has to be wide enough to accommodate the width of the fretboard. And you can see it's longer than the fretboard, but once we have the saw mark in the middle here, the curve, you're going to have, it's going to be hanging out as you cut your curves. So the farthest it'll hang off of the board is that much in either direction. It's only that much hanging off. So that'll be easy enough to hold up there. Okay, so basically I ripped the bottom, I ripped the front and the back. I marked the good faces because these are the ones that went through the joiner, and the sander is not always as straight as it needs to be. And this isn't super critical, but I want it to be as straight as possible and as square as possible, right? So now I also made the runners. Got these lined up with the front edge of the saw table here. Then I can lay this. And the end of this piece of wood was all bunged up, but I didn't want to cut it shorter because I wanted to have as much as possible. So that's just going to end up underneath the front edge board. I'm going to mark. This is approximately 24 inches, 24 and a 16, so we'll call it 12 inches center of our cut. Now I'm going to run this, run it that way. 12 inches. And I'm just moving the saw table just to help me hold things in place. So that's close enough to being centered, although I'm moving it another 30 seconds because that's how I am. Alright, now we'll just double check that these are flush, and theoretically, if these pieces of wood are flush and this piece of wood is flush with the front of the saw, then we should not have any issues. So this is not a perfectly square cut, so I'm going to just hold it back like that, and like that. Now I did go ahead and run these longer than the width of this board. This overall board is 24 by 7 7/16. And the reason I'm running these longer is just so that I have more stability, so this thing isn't going to shove out here and kind of bind on itself, you know, so the longer runners will keep that from happening. So I'm just going to take some tight bond here. I'm going to have screws in this too, so I don't need tons of it. So now I'm just going to lay this down here right at the edge of the table. We are all good. Oh, actually, even if these weren't exactly even with the edge of the table, since the board is square to the table and the grooves are square to the table, we should have square, right? Probably wouldn't be necessary. If I had a pin nailer out, I'd just pin nail it. But I'm just going to lay weights on here for like 10 minutes so that glue, so that everything is lining up really great right now. All right, so we've had some time for that to set up a little bit. Shall I try to make it perfect, or shall I just guess where the middle's at? There we go. I'm going all the way through, because that is the pilot for the threaded part of the screw. Now these are the counter bore for the actual side of the screw, so we don't want to go all the way through with that. Yeah, that's going to go down into that oak far enough, be perfect. I set up my little drill for this, and I left it over on the other counter. So that's what we look like. I don't guess I've ever said it. I did lay the fretboard on here, but this is, I'm making a sled for cutting fret slots on my table saw. After more than 20 years 25 years in fact, building guitars, I decided to buy the circular blade. I had So anyway, the next thing that needs to happen is that these need to be mounted flush to the edges, the front one. The only thing that's even remotely critical about this is that it's square to the table. This is square to the fixture, this line, and that this edge is flat and that this edge is flat. Pretty stinking perfect. You're only dealing with 3.5 inches. That needs to be square, so it's square and 4 inches. Yeah, it's really good actually. Yep. So I'm feeling pretty confident that this is going to be just fine. The thing to do here is get rid of that. I'm going to put some glue on that and clamp it into position, and then drill it and screw it, and parallel to this edge, of course. And again, it doesn't need a bunch of glue because it's going to have screws in it. Just kind of backing each other up that way. you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just flushing this up as much as possible. Same thing on the other end. Now, you don't want to put a screw where the blade's going to run through. So you just have to kind of pay attention to that. There's our mark, so nothing closer together than that, say. Okay, here we go, another picture. So what I've drawn here, let's see if I can get it up close enough, yeah. So you'll see that I've got a radius on top here. This is a 1/4 inch for the fretboard thickness, and then the 12-inch radius, which drops me down a little bit on this end, and then I'm adding a fat 1/16 here for 75 thousandths for the fret tang depth. And altogether, we're measuring at about an 1/8. So what I want to do is just figure about a fat 1/8, and that will be our kerf. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to run a slot and just kind of check my slot depth and see what we've got, and then I'll adjust from there. Oh, and just as a point to consider, I was not able to run this blade all the way up through the saw, through the sled. So I had to use that 1/16 inch that I had in there and cut it with that. So might get some chip out. The problem with this saw blade is that it's reinforced up to within a 1/2 inch of the top. So by the time you go through the 1/2 inch on the bottom, then you're out of room. So if you're going to do one of these, I would go with a 1/4 inch bottom. There's no reason not to, because these are what's holding your structure together. So anyway, if it becomes an issue, you know me, I'll just build another one. I've got to work on that some more. It's tight right at the end of the out feed here, and I took some off of it, so that should, yeah, that's good. Okay, so I just put that up a little bit. And it went up quite a bit more when I raised it up. This is going to be a bound fretboard. So what have we here? We really do have, because I had less than 1/8. The first one was less than 1/8. And then the second one is truly 1/8 1/2. Or fuzz. So what is that? 5/64ths? 5/32. 30 seconds. If my brain worked as good as my mouth, we'd be in business. Yeah, 5/32. Okay. So I'm going to go with that. I think that's fine. The thing I have to do now is put the pin in. All right, here's the deal. So the way this stuff works, if you haven't done this, most of you probably know this, is of course you have to straighten out one of the edges of your fretboard. It's going to go in here, flush up against that. Then you're going to have your guide glued to two-way taped to your fretboard, and there's going to be a pin coming through up here. Now, generally speaking, you don't line the pin up with the saw blade, but you can see the saw blade is so far away from the template. Right, I have to cut all the way through the fingerboard to cut this, to hit this template, because the idea is to save your saw blade at all costs. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my height here. So now I know the top of the template. I'm going to place the pin just below that line that I just made. And I don't think I can drill it from this direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill from outside. And it's going to be a 1/16 inch pin. That's what these take. Now I'm going to have a pin that will be above the fretboard. So as long as my fretboard is 1/4 inch, just have to have that pin coming out in between these two. I have no idea if you're gonna be able to see that. See if I can make it happen. Yeah, see those two lines? So my pin's going to come right out in there. Now, I don't have to be exactly over the kerf. But like I said, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. Most of these things, people have them, I mean, the ones that are pre-made when you buy them at StuMac or LMI. LMI is no longer with us, of course. They offset them, and if you offset them, it's quite a bit. And I like to be able just to say, okay, this is my first fret. You know, let's cut it, bang, and know that I'm relatively close, so that the end of my board is within reason here. This one's long enough that it's not an issue. Sometimes I have barely enough, so I like to be as exact as possible. That's about it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, I don't have the guide, the template, so I can't go ahead and run the saw curves in here, the fret slots. So this is just where we're going to leave this one at. Thank you much, folks. Take care.